I don't remember how long it's been since I first saw the island. At first, it was a speck on the horizon, barely more than a mirage through the haze. But now, as I stare at it through the damp, salty air, it feels like the only thing I've ever known. I've been at sea for days or maybe weeks. Time has no meaning out here, not when you're trapped in the belly of a rotting ship, shackled to the past. I was a prisoner. Once, I had been locked away for reasons I couldn't fully comprehend, things I had no choice but to forget. My days were spent in a cold stone cell, the only company the rats and the faint, sickly light from the small, barred window high up on the wall. The guards, they were the worst. Each one was a reflection of the cruelty I'd grown accustomed to. They didn't need to speak to terrify me. It was in the way they looked at me, like I was less than an animal, like I deserved the dark, forgotten corner of that dungeon. But then, something happened. A storm. Terrible storm. One of the guards made a mistake I would use to escape. I don't know if it was fate, or if it was just the slip of the hand when they threw me into the bowels of the ship as a prisoner to be transported. Maybe it was the rage inside me, the bitterness that had been festering for so long. But I saw the opportunity and I took it. I had no choice but to take it. I killed them. Not all of them, but enough to get away. The captain, I think, was a fool but a smart one. He locked me down below deck, thinking it would keep me contained until we arrived at some far-off place, some prison where I would be chained forever. But I had already decided that my chains weren't going to hold me for long. The storm raged harder. I could hear the thunder above the screams of the wind, the crash of the waves as they pounded against the ship's hull. I had one chance, one single sliver of time, and I took it. I grabbed the nearest cutlass from the fallen guard's belt, blood still drying on its steel. With my heart pounding, I slashed through the ropes holding the escape boat, cutting through them like paper. I had never known how to sail, but I wasn't about to let that stop me. The boat was small, barely seaworthy, but it would have to do. I didn't have time to think about what came next. The ship creaked, groaned, and snapped in the violent wind as I rowed furiously, trying to put distance between myself and the wreckage. The storm swallowed the sky, dark clouds blotting out everything but the ferocious rhythm of the waves. I could feel the boat being tossed about, sometimes slamming against the water with a sickening crack, and at others, lifting impossibly high, as though it might be torn apart by the ocean itself. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. I lost track of time completely. I only know that when I finally saw land, I was too exhausted to feel any real relief. The island wasn't welcoming. There was no tropical beauty, no sun-dappled shores or gentle, swaying palm trees. The land rose out of the water like a jagged knife, dark cliffs shrouded in mist, and trees that seemed to be twisted and deformed by the harsh winds. There was no sign of life, but that wasn't what unsettled me. It was the feeling, the strange, oppressive weight that hung in the air. It was as though the island itself was waiting, watching, and waiting for me to make the first move. I pulled the boat ashore, my arms aching, my legs barely able to hold me. The beach was damp, and the sand shifted unnervingly beneath my feet, as though the island itself was moving. I didn't have time to question it. The boat was ruined, and I had no other choice but to walk inland. I should have known better. I should have turned back. But I didn't. The trees here are unlike anything I've seen before. Their trunks are gnarled and twisted, like they're reaching for something just beyond their grasp. And the leaves, they aren't green. At least not in the way I understand green. They shimmer in hues of pale violet and dark red, as though they were dying, or perhaps they had never truly lived in the first place. I've been walking for hours, but it feels like I haven't moved at all. The air is thick, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. Sweat clings to my skin, the salty remnants of the ocean mingling with the humidity, until I feel like I'm suffocating. I can hear something in the distance, a faint, unnerving sound. It's not the wind or the waves, not any of the things I expected to hear on a tropical island. It's something deeper, a hum, a low, vibrating sound that seems to come from the very earth beneath my feet. It's as though the island is alive, and not in the way that nature is alive. No, this is something different, something older. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have come. But now it's too late. I push forward. I reach the edge of a clearing, and the ground here is littered with stones. Not just any stones. These are massive, larger than any I've ever seen. Their surfaces smooth and worn with age, covered in strange carvings. Some of them are cracked, some have fallen, but all of them seem to pulse with something unnatural. And then I see them. At first, I think they are statues, stone figures standing tall and unmoving. But as I get closer, I realize they are not statues. They are guardians. Their forms are humanoid, but their faces are wrong, twisted. Their eyes are wide, unblinking and empty, and their hands, long, clawed fingers, reach out as though they're waiting for something. Watching me. I back away slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. The air around me feels charged, as if the very presence of these guardians is enough to suffocate the life from me. My eyes dart from one figure to another, and the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. And then I hear it, a sound coming from behind me. I froze. The sound was soft at first, like the whisper of wind through broken stone, but it grew sharper, closer, crawling over my spine like ice. My breath caught, my lungs tightening. I wanted to run, but my legs refused to obey. My eyes darted around the clearing, the carved stone guardians standing silent, immobile, or so I thought. Something was moving. I could feel it before I saw it. The hair on my arms stood rigid. The ground beneath my feet seemed to pulse. A low rumble, not thunder, vibrated through the soles of my boots. The guardians were shifting, imperceptibly at first, just a subtle sway of stone limbs. And then one of them stepped forward. Just a single movement, but enough to make me stumble backward, my hands scraping against a jagged stone. My heart slammed in my chest. I stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at my face and arms, my mind screaming at me to run. But where could I go? Every direction seemed wrong. The forest was alive with shapes and sounds I couldn't identify. Leaves rustled, though there was no wind. Shadows slithered across the ground like dark water. I tripped over a root and fell forward. Pain shot through my shoulder, but I didn't care. I scrambled to my feet and pressed on, desperate to leave the clearing behind. And then I saw it. A creature, crouched low on a thick branch above me. Its eyes were too large, glimmering an unnatural yellow, and its limbs were twisted, elongated, almost insect-like. I froze. The thing didn't move, at least not yet, but I could feel its gaze burning into me. I didn't wait to find out what it would do next. I ran. The sun was setting, or at least I thought it was. The sky was a sickly orange, streaked with black clouds that moved unnaturally fast across the horizon. Shadows deepened in the forest, elongating and twisting like fingers. I had no idea how long I had been running, no idea where I was going, only that I needed shelter before darkness swallowed me completely. I stumbled upon a hollowed tree, its trunk wide enough to offer some semblance of protection. I crawled inside, my limbs shaking, my chest heaving. From here, I could hear the sounds of the forest at night, or rather, sounds I had no name for. Branches cracked unnaturally, as though something huge was moving just beyond the edge of visibility. I could hear growls, low and guttural, echoing through the trees. And always, the whispering hum from the ground, faint but persistent. I pressed myself against the inside of the hollow tree and tried to calm down. My fingers trembled as I searched my pockets for anything useful. I had nothing but the cutlass, my clothes soaked and torn, and the faint hope that somehow I might survive this. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Every few minutes, I thought I glimpsed a movement just beyond the hollow, a flicker of shadow, a glint of yellow eyes. Every time I thought I was safe, the forest seemed to exhale, and the whispers grew louder. It was then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The island knew me. I couldn't explain it, there was no rational reason for it, but the sensation was undeniable. The air itself seemed to resist me, thickening when I moved, guiding me, herding me into paths I didn't want to follow. Every step I took felt watched. Every breath seemed amplified. and I was convinced that the stone guardians had eyes everywhere, unseen yet vigilant. I tried to shut my mind off to sleep, but the island wouldn't let me. The hum became a song, or a chant, rising and falling, interwoven with the distant cries of unseen creatures. I imagined them circling, waiting for me to make a mistake. One wrong move, one wrong thought, and the island would consume me. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was broken here. I wasn't even sure if the sun had truly set. The forest seemed infinite, stretching and folding in ways that defied logic. And then I heard the footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate. I tried to quiet my breathing, pressed myself tighter against the hollow trunk, but the sound came closer. And then suddenly it stopped. Silence. Didn't move. I waited and waited. Nothing. I exhaled, relief flooding me for a fleeting moment. Then the branch above me snapped. Something fell, light but fast, hitting the ground with a thud. My head whipped up, and I saw them. A pack of creatures, small but swift, with faces twisted like mirrors of pain, limbs bent at impossible angles. They moved as one, circling the tree, their eyes reflecting the dim orange light. They chattered and screeched, a language I couldn't comprehend but understood perfectly as threat. I gripped my cutlass, the metal slick with sweat. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to focus. They were fast, but they weren't invincible. I had to make a choice. Stay and fight or run blindly into the forest. I ran. Branches tore at my face and arms, roots tripping me at every step. I could hear them chasing me, their screeches echoing in the unnatural canopy above. And then the ground beneath me shifted, splitting open with a low groan, and I fell. I hit the earth hard, rolling down a slope covered in thick moss. Pain lanced through my leg, but I scrambled to my feet. And then I saw it, the ruins. Massive stone structures, half buried in vines, towers broken and cracked, carvings like those in the clearing. They were massive, ancient, and somehow alive. Something about them drew me in, compelled me, even though every instinct screamed to run. I stumbled inside one of the broken halls, my leg giving way, blood trickling down my shin. The darkness inside was almost complete, but the walls themselves seemed to pulse faintly, like veins beneath stone. And then I saw the writing. Symbols etched deep into the stone, glowing faintly. I ran my fingers over them. The moment I touched the carvings, the air shifted. The whispers rose into a chorus, filling the hall, vibrating in my chest. And then I felt it, eyes on me. Not the creatures outside, not the guardians. Something else. Something older. The first night on the island of broken moons ended with me pressed against the cold stone of that ancient hall, shivering, bleeding, listening to the island breathe around me. And somewhere deep within the darkness, I knew one truth that filled me with terror and awe. This place had no intention of letting me leave alive. I woke to the sound of the wind, but it wasn't the wind. It was a low, vibrating hum, something so deep it made the stone walls shudder. The air was thick, cloying, alive, as though the island had wrapped itself around me while I slept, suffocating the space between each breath. I tried to push myself up, but my leg, it was stiff, swollen, and the blood had dried into my skin, making it feel like a heavy, lifeless weight. The pain was a constant pulse, sharp with each movement. The carvings on the wall were no longer faint, no longer just symbols. They were words now, their glow flickering like fireflies, growing brighter as though reacting to my touch.
Come closer.
I recoiled, my heart slamming against my ribs. The message was simple, clear, almost too clear, as though the stones themselves were speaking to me. But it wasn't just the words that unnerved me. It was the feeling that accompanied them. A presence, something ancient and all-encompassing, pulling at my very being, making my skin crawl. Something was watching me from the shadows, something beyond the ruins, something that wanted me to stay. I shook my head, forcing myself to focus. The hall was quiet now, the hum almost imperceptible, like the island itself had fallen back to sleep. I pressed my hand against the wall again, this time trying to push myself up to my feet. The sudden movement caused the ground to tremble beneath me. It was subtle at first, just a faint quiver, but it was enough to make my breath catch. And then, the silence broke. A sound. A scraping, rattling noise, deep and groaning, like stone grinding against stone. And then I saw it, one of the stone guardians. It had moved. I stumbled backward, panic surging through me. The figure was no longer still, no longer an inert statue of forgotten stone. Its limbs flexed and twisted in impossible ways, the cracks in its surface stretching open like wounds, revealing something alive beneath. The guardian's head tilted, and those cold, empty eyes met mine. I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead, my throat tight, the scream that had been building in me dying before it could escape. The thing stepped forward, its massive feet making no sound as it crossed the stone floor. There was no mistaking it now. The guardians weren't statues, they were protectors, and they were active. The realization was a punch to the gut. These were the true rulers of the island. I watched, paralyzed, as the guardian moved closer, its movements smooth, almost fluid. It was so much taller than I had imagined, the jagged stone plates of its body shifting with a strange, unsettling grace. Its face, it wasn't just grotesque. It was empty, a black void where its eyes should have been. But there was something more, something alive in those hollow sockets. A hunger that was directed at me. I tore my eyes away, my heart hammering in my chest. I needed to leave, but where could I go? The forest was a maze of twisted roots and oppressive shadows, and now that the guardians were moving, I knew I had no place to hide. Then I heard it, a low growl. It came from somewhere deep in the ruins, from the darkness beyond. The guardian turned its head sharply, the stone of its neck creaking as it scanned the space. Then, with a strange, fluid motion, it stepped aside. Something else was approaching. The ground shook again. I scrambled to my feet, my mind racing. The guardian had moved, but it wasn't watching me anymore. I had no time to think, no time to wonder what was happening. The growl grew louder, followed by a thumping, crashing sound as something large pushed its way through the undergrowth of the ruins. And then I saw it. It was monstrous, a creature like nothing I had ever seen before, its body an amalgamation of sinew, bone, and flesh twisted together in ways that defied logic. Its skin was mottled, the color of old bruises, its limbs too long, too thin, its claws jagged like the shards of broken glass. Its eyes were yellow, bloodshot, glaring with an unholy intelligence. It was hunting, and it was hungry. I didn't wait to see if it noticed me. I ran, my injured legs screaming in protest, my body not knowing whether to collapse or keep moving. The creature didn't chase me, not at first. It was too focused on the guardian, which had already started to retreat into the shadows. The sound of its footsteps, soft, predatory, drowned out everything else. I had to escape. I had to leave. But where? The ruins had no obvious exits, no signs of a way out. My breath caught as I realized the worst of it. The ruins weren't just ancient. They were designed to trap me. I stumbled into another chamber, deeper within the structure, and paused to catch my breath. The walls here were different, darker, slick with something like moss. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of decay. The floor was uneven, covered in what looked like blackened stones. I didn't know how I knew, but I felt the pressure building. I was not alone. From the shadows, I heard the same whisper I had heard in the forest. So faint, so distant, that I wondered if it was my own mind playing tricks on me. But then it came again, this time louder and clearer. Come closer. I turned, my heart skipping a beat, and there, at the far end of the chamber, half hidden in the dark, was another carving. But this one was different. It was moving. It was alive. I wasn't imagining it. The symbols, etched deep into the stone, were writhing, shifting before my eyes, changing shape, forming new patterns that were almost impossible to follow. It was as though the very stone was alive, feeding on my fear, twisting with every thought that passed through my head. I had no choice but to approach it. My feet carried me forward, and as I moved, the whispers grew louder, a strange chant filling my ears. The stone was warm beneath my touch. I could feel it pulsing, vibrating as though something ancient and terrible was awakening deep inside the island's heart. The symbols seemed to react to me. They wanted me to touch them, to open something. I could feel it, the island's hunger. It wanted me. I stepped closer, my breath shallow. And then, crack, something huge, something heavy, shattered the floor beneath me. I barely had time to react as I fell. I fell for what felt like hours, though it was likely only seconds. The ground beneath me gave way with a deafening crack, and the world exploded into darkness. I hit the cold stone with a bone-shattering thud, my body slamming into the jagged rock floor. Pain exploded in every joint, but I didn't have time to scream. I couldn't afford to make any noise. I lay there for a moment, stunned, trying to regain my breath. The air was thick down here, stifling, and it tasted wrong. There was something acrid about it, something that clung to the back of my throat. I could hear the echoes of my fall reverberating off the walls, and though I knew the ruins were ancient, they seemed alive, like they were listening, waiting. It took a few moments for my vision to clear, but when it did, I realized I was no longer in the same place. The chamber I had fallen into was vast, larger than any I had yet encountered on this island. It was a hollow beneath the surface, a cavern carved from the rock itself, deep and spiraling. The ceiling was high above, lost in darkness, but I could make out faint, glowing veins of moss that ran along the walls. The faint green light seemed to pulse, as though it had a heartbeat of its own. I pulled myself to my feet, wincing at the sharp pain in my leg. The fall had done nothing to help it. In fact, it had made things worse. The bone felt bruised, maybe cracked. It was hard to tell, but I didn't have time to focus on that. I had to get out. I turned in a circle, trying to get my bearings. There was no sign of the guardian or the creature I had seen earlier. But the silence in this place was different. It was more profound, like everything in this cavern had been waiting for me to fall. My eyes scanned the edges of the cavern, narrowing at something that caught my attention. There, near the far wall, was a structure, stone, ancient, carved in a way that seemed more precise, more deliberate than anything I had seen above ground. The surface shimmered, as though it was wet with something. I limped toward it, each step echoing too loudly in the unnatural quiet. The closer I got, the more I could see. Strange symbols carved into the stone, symbols that glowed with a sickly yellow light, similar to the ones I had touched earlier. The wall in front of me had been meticulously shaped, lined with a pattern of eyes, all facing inward, staring at something unseen. I reached out to touch it, feeling the cool stone under my fingers. The moment I did, the ground trembled. At first, it was subtle, a mere vibration in the stone beneath my feet. But then it grew, stronger, louder. The walls of the cavern seemed to move, shifting, closing in. I backed away quickly, heart racing. This was no ordinary stonework. These carvings were alive, pulsating in time with the rhythm of the island itself. I knew, in the deepest part of me, that I had triggered something I couldn't control. The whispering began again, but this time it wasn't faint. It wasn't just an eerie hum from the ground. The voices surrounded me, dozens, hundreds, filling the air with a language I could barely comprehend. Their tone was low, rhythmic, like a chant, and it made my skin crawl. The sound echoed in the cavern, bouncing off the walls until it filled the space completely.
Come closer.
I staggered back, my body moving on its own accord. The whispers were louder now, almost frantic. They weren't just beckoning, they were pulling me. The island was hungry. The walls, the ground, the air. All of it was drawing me toward the center of the cavern, where the stone formation stood. I didn't want to move. I tried to fight it, but the pull was overwhelming. The island was alive, and it was feeding. It had been waiting for me. As if responding to my thought, the stone formation began to shift. Slowly, pieces of the wall moved, sliding apart like the opening of a massive, grotesque mouth. And then I saw it. In the center of the opening was a dark hole. Not a passage. Not a cave. A womb. The stone seemed to grow around it, forming a pit of jagged teeth, sharp and hungry. The air around it thickened, as though the very presence of this thing was distorting reality itself. I realized, with rising dread, that this was the heart of the island. This was the place it had been leading me to all along. I should have turned around. I should have run, but I couldn't. My legs wouldn't obey. I was compelled forward. The whispering grew louder, more urgent. Come closer. Feed us. I reached the edge of the pit. The ground beneath me was soft, damp, and I could smell the rot. There, at the very bottom, a mass of writhing black tendrils coiled around what appeared to be something alive, or something that had been alive. A figure, suspended in the depths of the pit, its body twisted in unnatural shapes, skin stretched thin, eyes bulging, its mouth open in a silent scream. It was a person. I couldn't tell who it was, but I knew it had once been human. Before I could pull away, the pit's edges seemed to collapse around me. The walls, the veins of light running through the stone, all twisted together in a final violent surge. I stumbled backward, my feet giving way beneath me as the ground shifted and groaned. The figure in the pit was alive, its body convulsing, thrashing against the stone. And then the voice came again. But this time it wasn't just a whisper. It was a roar, a command. Feed me. The stone guardians had come. They filled the cavern, their massive, stone limbs moving with unsettling fluidity. But they were no longer silent statues. They were alive, awake, and they were coming for me. I didn't have time to react. The ground cracked open beneath me, splitting wide like a wound. The pit was pulling me down, dragging me toward it, and there was nothing I could do. My breath caught in my throat as the guardians closed in, their stone fingers reaching for me, and I realized the truth too late. The island was feeding, and I was its next meal. The ground cracked open beneath me, and before I knew it, I was falling again. But this time, there was no darkness to cushion my descent. The pit itself had become a maw, a living thing that swallowed me whole, dragging me downward into the belly of the island. My screams were lost in the roar of stones scraping against stone, the violent rush of air cutting through my lungs. I landed with a sickening thud, the impact sending a jolt through my spine. My chest heaved as I gasped for air, but there was none. The air was thick and stifling, choked with the scent of rot and decay. It felt like I was suffocating, drowning in something far worse than just physical airlessness. The very essence of the island was pressing in on me, heavy and oppressive, as though the walls themselves wanted to crush me. I scrambled to my feet, my heart hammering, but it wasn't the pain in my body that frightened me. No, it was the feeling in the pit of my stomach, the cold certainty that I was being watched. I looked up, and my eyes widened as I saw what loomed before me. A massive, swirling black vortex of energy, thrumming with the force of something ancient and hungry. The pit had opened up into a vast chasm, a churning maelstrom of darkness, tendrils of shadow stretching toward me like claws. It wasn't just the island that was alive. The island was infected. The island was corrupted. The blackness at the heart of the chasm began to move, spiraling inward like a monstrous eye opening to gaze upon me. I felt its pull, like an invisible hand pressing against my chest. It wasn't just gravity. It was a force far worse, a presence so old and hungry that I could feel it gnawing at the edges of my mind. The guardians had circled the pit, their stone bodies shifting as though they were awaiting orders. But they weren't waiting for me to flee. They were waiting for me to feed the island. The whispering came again. But now it wasn't a whisper. It was a roar, a cacophony of voices, all rising together in a single terrifying command. Feed us. I stumbled backward, my vision blurred, my mind reeling. This place, this island, it wasn't just an ancient ruin. It was a living entity, a sentient, monstrous thing that fed on souls, that had fed on me from the moment I set foot on its shores. I wasn't meant to survive. I never had been. The island had drawn me here, just like it had drawn every other soul before me. and like them I was to be consumed. The figure in the pit began to stir again, twisting in the shadows. I could see it more clearly now, and I realized with a sickening shock that it was another person. Their body was stretched and warped, their skin pulled taut over ribs that jutted out at sharp angles. Their eyes were wide, unblinking, staring straight into mine. They were alive but barely. This person had become part of the island's hunger, part of its grotesque, insatiable need to consume. And now it was my turn. I turned my gaze away from the figure, but something caught my eye. A light, faint and flickering, from a passageway behind the guardians. It was a sliver of hope, a glimmer of escape. I had to move. I limped toward the light, my legs shaking beneath me. The guardians didn't move, at least not yet. I could feel their eyes on me, their silent judgment pressing down, but I didn't stop. The pull of the chasm was growing stronger, the darkness at its heart almost suffocating, but I had to make it to that passage. As I reached the entrance to the passageway, the walls of the cavern seemed to close in on me. The black vortex roared louder, but the stone guardians began to move, their massive, stone limbs groaning as they shifted to block my path. "You cannot escape," the voices whispered. "You are ours now." I gripped the cutlass, my fingers slick with sweat. The blade felt useless in my hand, too small and too fragile for what I was about to face. But there was no choice. I had to fight. One of the guardians reached for me, its stone fingers closing around the air with a speed that shouldn't have been possible. I ducked, narrowly avoiding its grip, and scrambled forward, but I felt the ground shift beneath me. The passageway was collapsing, the very earth betraying me, as if the island itself was trying to swallow me whole. I had to keep moving. With a final, desperate lunge, I squeezed through the narrowing passage, feeling the sharp edges of the rocks scrape against my skin. I didn't look back. Couldn't. The sound of stone grinding against stone, the cries of the guardians, the thrumming of the vortex. It all blurred into a single horrible noise, but I didn't stop. The passage finally opened up into another chamber. But it wasn't like the others. This room was different, cleaner, more meticulously crafted, with walls that gleamed unnaturally white. The air was fresher here, and yet, there was something deeply wrong about it. The light in the room wasn't natural either. It flickered, unstable, casting strange shadows against the walls. At the far end of the chamber, I saw something that froze me in place. There, carved into the stone, was a giant seal, an intricate symbol that looked almost like a doorway, but it was more than that. The shape was familiar, though I couldn't place where I had seen it before. A circle surrounded by lines and markings, intersecting at points that seemed to pulse in time with the island's heartbeat. The island's heart. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that whatever power it held, it was the key to ending this madness, or to becoming another part of it. And then I saw the figure, the one who had been in the pit. The person, now a husk of their former self, was standing in front of the seal, their eyes hollow and black, their skin pulled tight over bone. But they weren't dead. Not yet. They were still breathing, still alive. But they had been changed, transformed into something twisted, something between life and death, feeding off the island's hunger. I stepped forward, my legs trembling. I had no choice. This was the moment where I had to make a decision. To fight the island or to give in. To become a part of its endless cycle of hunger and rebirth. But as I approached the seal, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The figure was waiting for me. They were no longer human. They had become an extension of the island's will. And in their hollow eyes, I could see the same thing I had seen in the pit, the same hunger. The island wasn't just alive. It was evolving, and it wanted me. I could hear my heartbeat, but it was drowned out by the gnawing hum that filled the air. The seal in front of me was alive, pulsing in time with the island's terrible rhythm. Its surface shimmered, as if the stone itself was breathing, and every instinct in me screamed to run, to escape. But there was nowhere left to run. The figure in front of the seal, what was left of a person, a soul consumed by this place, was watching me, its hollow eyes gleaming with an unholy hunger. I knew what it wanted. I could feel it in my bones. This was the moment where the island would decide if I would join its eternal cycle or be consumed and forgotten. I swallowed hard, trying to focus, to think. But it was hard to think. The air felt like a vice around my skull, and the voices were deafening now, screaming, whispering in 1,000 tongues at once. Every part of me wanted to collapse, to give in, to surrender. It would be so easy. The figure took a slow step toward me, its body jerking unnaturally with each movement. A low, rasping sound escaped from its throat, like the last breath of a dying animal. The hunger was radiating off it, a palpable force that seemed to bend the air itself. I could feel it pulling at me, trying to sink its claws into my mind. I took a shaky step back, my hand tightening around the cutlass. The blade was worthless against the island, but it was the only thing I had. I wasn't going to go down without a fight. The figure's mouth opened, but it didn't speak. It didn't need to. The pull of the island, the hunger, spoke for it. The air was thick with the desire to consume, to draw me into the void, to become one with the island, a part of its endless, twisting cycle of death and rebirth. But no, I couldn't give in. I raised the cutlass, my mind racing for an answer, any answer. I had seen the pattern, the glowing symbols on the walls, the way the island had reacted to my touch, the way the stone had seemed to pulse with life. The island was alive, yes, but it wasn't one thing. It was a force that had somehow gained power over generations of souls, pulling them in, twisting them, feeding off them. And it wasn't just ancient, it was ever-changing. The island was evolving. What if that was the key? What if the island's power wasn't in the hunger itself, but in its ability to change, to adapt to every new soul, every new life it consumed? A horrible realization struck me then. The seal wasn't just a symbol. It was a doorway. I stared at the seal, the intricate markings etched deep into the stone. They had been here before, the people who had come and gone, leaving their marks. This wasn't just a trap. It was a ritual, a way for the island to feed and evolve. If I joined it, I would be the next sacrifice in its cycle. But if I destroyed it, maybe I could break the cycle altogether. The air thickened with anticipation, and the figure before me reached out, its clawed fingers stretched toward me. But then, for the first time, it hesitated. There was something behind those hollow eyes, something like fear, the fear of losing control, the fear that it, too, was a victim of the island's endless hunger. I didn't have much time. The darkness in the chasm was closing in, swallowing the light. The guardians were waiting, shifting silently in the background, watching to see what I would do. The island was testing me. I ran toward the seal. The moment my hand touched the glowing stone, the entire room seemed to shake. The island roared in my mind, its voice a chaotic cacophony of rage and hunger. The figure screamed, but it wasn't human anymore. It was a wail of torment, a cry that echoed through the ages. I pushed harder, forcing my hand deeper into the seal. The symbols began to shift, twisting like vines, expanding outward, their edges burning with a sickly yellow light. The island was fighting back. It didn't want to die. It wanted to feed. But I wasn't giving up. The ground trembled beneath me, and the passageway that had brought me here began to collapse. Stone fell from the ceiling, filling the chamber with dust and debris. But still, I kept pressing forward, my body trembling, my thoughts blurring under the weight of the island's presence. And then I felt it, the power, the life force of the island surging through my veins, flooding my body with its corruptive, overwhelming force. My vision blurred, my skin crawled, and I felt the hunger inside me, so much hunger. It wanted to consume me, to consume everything. But I fought it, using the last of my strength to twist the seal, to break it. And then silence. The world froze. For one brief moment there was nothing. No voices. No pulling hunger. No island. Just silence. And then the earth gave way beneath me. The seal shattered. I woke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. The salt air stung my nostrils, and I gasped as if I had been drowning. My body ached, every muscle sore, every joint stiff and swollen. But there was no pain in my chest, no sense of wrongness inside me. I looked around, disoriented. The ruins were gone. The island was still here, but something had changed. The air was different, fresher. The weight that had been pressing down on me had lifted, as if the island itself had let go. The guardians were gone. The hunger was gone. I stumbled to my feet, looking out over the beach. The ocean stretched out before me, its waters calm, as if nothing had happened at all. But I knew better. I could still feel the remnants of the island's power lingering inside me. A scar, a shadow that would never fully fade. I had destroyed the island. But in doing so, I had also destroyed myself. I had become part of it just like the others. I woke again. This time, I knew I wasn't dreaming. The soft crash of the waves against the shore was real. The tang of salt in the air was real. But it wasn't just the ocean that felt real. The sky overhead was a deep, unbroken blue. The island had returned to its serene, unthreatening form. The green of the trees, the flowers blooming from the cliffs, the rustling of the palms. Everything felt normal. Too normal. I stood up, blinking, my head spinning as I tried to make sense of where I was. The last thing I remembered was the breaking of the seal, the final clash between myself and the island. I had pushed myself to my limits, but now it was as if none of it had ever happened. I wasn't dead, at least not in the way I had expected. My body was still intact. No twisted mutations, no scars, no sign of the horrors I'd endured. But something had changed. I could feel it in the way my heart beat, in the strange pull that lingered in the back of my mind. There was something off, something that didn't sit right. The sound of a footstep behind me made me spin around, and I almost dropped to my knees in shock. There, standing in the shadow of the cliffs, was the figure from the pit, the one who had been consumed by the island's hunger. But it wasn't the same. This was new. The figure before me looked human, still breathing, still alive. But there was a cold, empty gleam in their eyes. The hunger was still there, lingering in their gaze like a beast waiting to strike. It spoke. "You broke the seal. You destroyed the island." The voice was hollow, unrecognizable. It wasn't a voice of gratitude or relief. It was the voice of someone who had been drained, consumed, and yet, somehow, still alive. "What have I done?" I whispered, a cold chill crawling up my spine. The figure took a step toward me, their movements jerky, unnatural. "You thought you had destroyed it. You thought you had freed yourself." I stumbled back, my heart pounding. "But I did. I broke the seal. I made the choice. You broke the cycle, yes. But you cannot destroy what is eternal. You cannot erase the hunger that binds this island together." The air around me thickened, and suddenly the sky seemed to darken, as though a storm was brewing on the horizon. The ground beneath my feet shifted, like a tremor running through the island itself. I backed away, instinctively reaching for my cutlass, but the blade felt heavier than before, as though it too had been drained of its purpose. What does that mean?" I gasped, my throat tightening. The figure tilted their heads slightly, the edges of their mouth twitching in what could have been a smile or a grimace. "It means that the island was never truly defeated. It was simply paused, its hunger delayed. Cannot be stopped, not by you, not by anyone. You cannot destroy what lives in the bones of this place, what feeds from the souls of the desperate. It will always return. It will always claim." A sickening realization swept over me. The island had never truly been just a place. It was a presence, a force that had existed long before me and would continue long after. It was alive in a way that went beyond any normal understanding of life and death. The cycle was never meant to end, and now I had unwittingly become a part of it. The figure stepped forward, its eyes fixed on me with a terrifying clarity. "You have not escaped. You are part of the island now. You always have been. You can never leave." A cold wave of dread flooded over me. The hunger, the pull of the island, it was still here, lingering, growing. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "I won't become like you." The figure's eyes darkened, and its voice became a low, guttural growl. "You have no choice. You already are." A feeling like 1,000 pinpricks suddenly erupted in my chest, as though something deep inside me was trying to break free. My body tensed, the muscles locking up, and I gasped, stumbling to my knees. The hunger was rising in me, just as it had in the figure before me. It wasn't just in the island anymore. It was in me. I heard a voice, my own voice, whisper in the back of my mind. It wasn't a thought, it was a command. Join us. It was the island's will. The island had chosen me not as a victim, but as a vessel. A new guardian. A new part of the endless hunger. No, I breathed again, struggling to push the thought away, but it was no use. The island's presence in my mind was suffocating, powerful, inescapable. The hunger within me roared to life, filling me with a terrible, insatiable desire. I felt it now, that same twisted need. It wasn't just the island's hunger. It was my own. I rose unsteadily, my breath shallow. The figure before me nodded solemnly, as if knowing what I was becoming. You've been marked. You will serve the island, just like I did, just like all of us. I turned away, my vision blurry, my thoughts muddled. But the hunger, it was growing. The island had not let me escape. I had become the island. I don't know how much time has passed since I spoke with the figure. Days? Weeks? Time no longer holds meaning in this place. The island feels more like me now, and I feel more like it. The hunger never truly fades. It just changes you. It makes you part of it. I've wandered the shores, the dense jungles, the stone ruins. The cycle is ongoing. The guardians still roam, but they are no longer stone. They are like me, like the figure. They are the island's new servants, bound to the hunger, and we are all part of it now. I feel it, the call, whenever I stray too far from the heart of the island. The pulse, the hum, it draws me back, closer to the dark center. The island is never truly empty. There are always others who wander in, desperate, broken, seeking refuge or escape, and they, too, will become part of the island. I am both free and trapped, part of a cycle that has no end. I have broken the seal, but in doing so, I have made myself a part of it. I was the island's final choice. The hunger doesn't end. Never ends. I've wandered the island, still trapped in its grip, still haunted by its hunger. It doesn't matter how many times I close my eyes, how many times I try to escape, the island is always here, always in my veins. I feel it watching me, even when I am alone, even when the wind is still and the jungle is silent. The island has a way of breaking you, takes what you are, twists it, and leaves you with something far worse than death. But it's not just the hunger that drives me. There's something else, something darker, older, buried beneath the layers of stone and shadow. I can feel it, the heart of the island. It pulses, like the beating of some ancient, monstrous god. But this god isn't here to save us. It's here to consume. I've come to understand that I am not the first to fall victim to this cursed place. No, the island has claimed many before me, and I am starting to remember them, the lost ones, the souls who had once wandered these shores, drawn in by its promise of escape, only to fall into its trap. I am one of many now. The guardians, they weren't always stone. They were once like me, like the others. I was the first to see their faces, their human faces, trapped behind the stone mask. They are prisoners of the island, bound to its will. But they were once people, real people, not monsters. And they were part of the island's ancient ritual. I've learned that this island is not just a place. It's a living entity, a dark force that has existed long before recorded history. The broken moons, they call it in the ancient texts, though none of them are left. The island was once home to a forgotten civilization, a people who worshipped the moons, ancient beings from the heavens who bestowed the island's dark gift, the power of hunger. The civilization's name has been lost, erased by time, but the curse remains. The moons, the island's patrons, were beings of shadow and hunger, far older than any god. The people of the island worshipped them, offering sacrifices of life and soul. In exchange, the moons granted them unimaginable power, but it came with a price: eternal hunger. I understand now what I have become, a vessel just like the others. The island uses us as conduits, siphoning our energy, drawing our souls into its maw. But there's more. There's always more. This place isn't just a prison. It's a hunting ground. The souls that are consumed here are not destroyed. They are transformed into something new, something worse. His name is Caleb. He doesn't know how he ended up here, but it doesn't matter. He is as much a part of the island as I am now. I found him at the edge of the beach, stumbling through the thick jungle, eyes wide with terror, clutching his side where a jagged wound had torn through his shirt. His ship had wrecked too, another lost soul caught in the island's grip. He had barely survived the crash, only to be greeted by the island's horrors. His hands trembled as he spoke. I saw it. It was like a storm, but it wasn't wind. It was the sky itself moving. The clouds. I knew what he meant. He had seen the moons, those ancient beings, the ones who brought the curse here. They don't show themselves often, but when they do, the very air twists. The storm that Caleb had witnessed was part of their essence, their eternal hunger trying to find new ways to draw in the souls of the living. It is their will that shapes the island. It is they who created the guardians, the twisted, corrupted remnants of those who once tried to escape. I don't know how I got here, Caleb said, shivering. I don't want to be here. Please tell me you know a way out. Tell me you can get me off this island. I could see the desperation in his eyes, the same look I had once had, before I realized there was no way out. Not anymore. The island didn't let anyone leave. It never had. There is no way off this island. I told him, my voice low, steady. I tried. You tried. It doesn't work. You can't escape. But I can help you survive. For a time. Just don't give in to the hunger. He looked at me, his face pale, desperate. What hunger? Caleb's arrival has triggered something. The island knows. It has sensed the new blood. Its influence is already growing. Its presence creeping into Caleb's thoughts, worming its way into his mind. I have watched it happen before. The hunger does not strike all at once. It starts small. A flicker of desire, a gnawing itch at the back of your skull. A whisper that urges you to surrender, to give in. The guardians are drawn to new blood. 2. They know when a soul arrives, when it is vulnerable. They are both protectors and hunters, trapped like me but not yet consumed. I had thought I could ignore the whispers of the island, that I could keep my mind intact. But now I know the truth. The moons control everything here, down to the smallest detail. Their power is woven into the very fabric of this place. We are their offerings, their playthings. Caleb has been here less than a day, and already I can see the change. He flinches whenever the wind shifts. His eyes dart around, afraid of shadows that aren't there. He speaks in whispers to himself, and I know what he's doing. He's trying to make sense of it. But the island doesn't allow you to make sense of it. It takes all sense and twists it into madness. I've decided to show Caleb the truth. He needs to understand the ritual. He needs to know what will happen when the hunger takes him. He needs to know what he'll become. Last night, Caleb and I came upon the ancient temple deep within the jungle. It had stood for millennia, half swallowed by vines, its walls etched with symbols I could not understand. It was here that the island's power began, where the first sacrifices were made. The moon's power originated from this place, the heart of the island. There, I showed Caleb the carvings on the walls, ancient depictions of people who had once been like us, standing in front of stone guardians, offering their bodies to the moons. They were not just sacrifices. They were transformed into vessels as I had been. The island took their souls and made them part of its hunger, part of its eternal cycle. The guardians weren't created by stone or magic. They were once men and women, and they still linger, trapped in their stone forms, unable to escape. They are the lost souls, the remnants of the island's horrific rituals. Caleb's face went pale as he took in the scene. He began to shake, his breath quickening. I could feel his fear, but there was something else, something darker beneath it. The hunger had already begun its work. He was changing, and soon I will have to make a choice. Do I continue to fight the hunger, Or do I give in to the island like the others? Does anyone ever truly break free? The island is beginning to change once again. The skies darken, the wind picks up, and the ground shakes. The moons are stirring, and with them comes the ritual. The hunger is getting stronger. Caleb is no longer the man he was. He is slipping, becoming something darker, something twisted. And the guardians are stirring once more. They are waking, but this time they are different. I can hear their voices, calling to me, but they are not asking for my help. They are telling me to join them. The island calls, and the question remains, who will I become in the end? I thought I had seen the island in its worst light. The storm, the guardians, the hunger. But I was wrong. The island is not just a place. It is alive in ways I never imagined. I had tried to understand its mechanics, the nature of its hunger, the way it devours souls and traps them in a twisted, endless cycle. But now, I realize something far more terrifying. The island itself is part of the moons, and the moons are part of it. We are trapped in a cosmic web, unable to break free, caught in a nightmare that stretches across the eons. Caleb's transformation is accelerating. I can see it in his eyes. The change is slow at first, a tremble in his hand, a flicker in his gaze. But it deepens with every passing hour. He doesn't speak much anymore, only whispers to himself, his words broken and desperate. His skin is beginning to show signs of the hunger, the veins darkening like creeping vines. I've seen it before, the way the island pulls you in, the way the hunger begins as a gnawing desire but soon consumes your thoughts, your very being. He's losing himself. The island's heart lies beneath the temple, buried deep in the earth. I had known about it for some time now, but only recently have I dared to venture deeper. The moons are not just gods. They are parasites, ancient beings from beyond the stars who found a world to feed off, a world that became their home. The island is not their origin, but it is where they were drawn, seeking to feed on the living. The ancient civilization that once inhabited this place worshipped them, believing that by offering their souls, they could gain power and immortality. But the moons had other plans. They took and they never gave back. The moons are the dark stars, not constellations or celestial bodies, but sentient entities that move through the void, feeding on the energy of the living. The island is their prison and their feast, a place where they can suck the life from those who wander too close. I found this in the ruins below the temple. A prison, not of stone or iron, but of light. A strange energy that surrounds the core of the island, keeping the moons bound. The moons are always searching, always waiting for a way to break free, and the island feeds them, sustaining their hunger. But there's a twist, there's always a twist. The guardians, the stone figures that haunt the island, are not just there to protect the moons. They are the keepers, the ones who have been marked by the moons. When a soul is consumed by the island, it doesn't simply disappear. It is reformed into a new guardian, trapped, bound to the island, forever. I shudder to think of what I've become. The hunger within Caleb is growing stronger by the hour. I've tried to keep him from falling further into its grip, but there's nothing I can do. The moons are calling to him now, just as they had called to me when I first arrived. They are patient, always patient. They know that soon he will no longer be Caleb. He will be part of them. I tried to hold him back, tried to pull him away from the dark edge he was approaching, but it's no use. The hunger takes its toll, and with every hour, his mind becomes more fragmented. I can see him slipping, the last vestiges of his humanity fading. He looks at me now as if I am a stranger, his eyes clouded with hunger, his voice barely a whisper. I can feel them, he says. I can feel the moons inside me. They're calling. They're saying I don't have to fight it. I don't have to be afraid. I try to hold him, to speak sense into him, but it's like trying to hold a storm in my hands. He pulls away, his breath ragged, his eyes wide with terror. I don't want this, he pleads, his voice cracking. I don't want to be like them. Please don't let me. But I can't stop it. The hunger is already too far gone. The island has already claimed him, and the moons are waiting, watching, their cold influence creeping into his soul. He screams, his body convulsing, and then silence. I buried Caleb's body near the temple, beneath the very ground where the moon's influence is strongest. I tried to give him some dignity in death, though I knew it was futile. The island would soon claim his soul. He would rise again as one of the guardians, twisted and corrupted, his body nothing more than a vessel for the island's hunger. As I stood over his grave, I felt it, the unmistakable shift in the island's energy. The moons were stirring. The guardians were awakening. I could hear their whispers, distant at first, but growing louder. They were calling me just as they had called Caleb. They wanted me, needed me to join them, but something else had changed. The island was restless. The moon's grip was growing stronger, and I could feel the walls of the island shifting. The hunger was now more than just a drive for survival, it was a force, trying to break free. The moons, imprisoned for so long, were now pushing against the boundaries of their prison. The earth groaned beneath my feet, and the sky above began to swirl with storm clouds, dark and foreboding. The guardians, Caleb included, were no longer simply passive. They were gathering, moving, speaking in voices not their own. And with each step they took, the island trembled. The hunger had changed. It had evolved. The island is breaking apart, its core shaking, its energy building, spiraling into something that feels both ancient and new. The moons are coming. I am no longer sure if I am fighting the hunger, or if I have become it. The lines between myself and the island have blurred. I have seen what Caleb will become, and I wonder, will I be any different? The guardians are coming for me. They want to draw me in, make me one of them. But there's something more, something deeper than just the hunger. The moons are reaching out and I feel them, their pull. They want me to take a final step, to embrace what I have become, to be reborn in their image. They offer me power, immortality, the chance to become one with them, to become a god. But there is a price. The island is on the verge of collapse, and I know that if I take that step, if I accept their offer, the world beyond will be swallowed. The hunger will spread, and all will fall. I stand at the precipice, facing the choice between absolute power and the destruction of everything. The island has fed on souls for centuries, but now it wants to feed on the world. It wants to become a blight that stretches across the stars. But there is another way. I've seen the ancient texts. There is a ritual, one final sacrifice that could sever the island's connection to the moons, a way to end it all. But to perform it, I must sacrifice myself, my soul, my life, and everything I've become. Can I do it? Can I end the cycle, or will I be consumed by the hunger? I know my answer, but I also know the price. And I wonder, will I have the strength to finish what I started? The island has become something else. It's not just a place anymore. It's a heartbeat, a presence that throbs beneath my skin, beneath the earth itself. It is the hunger, and the hunger is alive. I can feel it now more clearly than ever. It has spread through me, seeped into my bones, into my thoughts. I am no longer sure where the island ends and I begin. The guardians, they were once like me. They are not merely sentient statues. No, they are part of the moon's will, but they are also prisoners, twisted into monstrous forms. They are the moon's vanguard, imbued with ancient power but also trapped in a cycle of destruction. And now I understand why. They were the first to fall to the hunger, their bodies transformed, their souls devoured and turned into instruments of the island's power. They walk, they wait, they hunt, but they do not live. Caleb was one of them now, a fresh vessel. His body will rise soon like the others. The transformation is inevitable. The hunger is insatiable. But there is something more, something I hadn't anticipated. The moons are waking. I can feel them now, not as distant, cold stars, but as beings of will and power, shaping the island around them. The sky above is thick with their presence, the clouds swirling in unnatural patterns. The winds howl with their whispers. The moons are preparing to consume the world, to break free from the prison the island has been for them. I can hear them. They are calling, beckoning me. The temptation is unbearable. I can feel the pull of their power, the allure of immortality, the promise of absolute hunger. I can feel myself slipping, fading into something far darker, far more powerful than I've ever known. But I also feel something else, something human, a flicker of defiance. I had thought I was alone in this. I had thought I was the last one left, the last to struggle against the moon's hunger. But I was wrong. There is one other. One who remains, caught between the island's powers and the moon's corruption. I don't know how he found me, but there he was, standing at the edge of the cliff, looking out over the storm-ravaged sea. His clothes were tattered, his body battered from his escape, but there was something different about him. He wasn't as broken as I was. He had resisted the island's call. His name is Jonas, and he claims to have been a prisoner here for longer than he can remember. He doesn't speak much of his past, only that he had once been a scholar, a seeker of truths long buried. But now he has become something else, a hunter, one who knows how to avoid the island's traps. He didn't want to speak to me at first. He watched me from a distance, wary of the hunger that still clung to me. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't sure if I was one of the lost ones, if I had already succumbed. But I was different. I could feel it in my soul. I wasn't lost yet. Jonas had come to warn me, to show me the final way, the last option, the one that might sever the island's connection to the moons. It's not just the moons, he told me, his voice low and urgent. The island itself, the very land we're standing on, is a part of their prison. The island is not only a place of feeding, it's also their anchor. If the island falls, they will be free to spread their hunger across the world. And not just the world, the universe. This isn't just a battle for survival. It's a battle for everything. Then what can we do? I asked, my voice raw. I knew what I had to do, but could I do it? He looked at me, his eyes dark with the weight of knowledge. There's a way to destroy the island, to break the moon's prison. But to do that, we have to release something far worse than the moons. What worse thing? I asked, a chill creeping down my spine. The essence of the moons, he said, his voice trembling. The moons are not just alien gods. They are the essence of hunger itself. They were never meant to be. They were born of something much older, much more terrifying. I swallowed hard, trying to process his words. The moons were not just beings. They were forces, cosmic entities beyond understanding, and the island was their cage. Jonas continued, to break the moon's grip on the island, we must release that essence, free it from its prison. It will be a flood of hunger, a cataclysm. The moons will lose their power, but so will the island. And everything that lives here will die. I shook my head. That's madness. We'll be destroying everything. He nodded. Yes, but you said it yourself. The hunger is eternal. The island cannot be saved, not without its power spreading beyond. The only way to stop it is to destroy it, even if it means sacrificing everything we know. The moons have begun their final awakening. The island quakes, the storm above rages. It is no longer just the wind. It is them, breaking free from their prison, their hunger filling the air. Jonas and I have made our decision. We venture into the heart of the island, to the temple where it all began. We need to reach the core to unleash the essence, the source of the moon's power. But the journey is not without danger. The guardians are everywhere, their eyes fixed on us. I feel their hunger, feel them watching. They are close. They know what we're doing. And I know, deep down, that once we unleash this essence, the island will crumble. The moons will die, but so will everything in their wake. We reach the altar, the place where the first sacrifice was made, where the moon's essence was first bound. I can hear their voices now, whispers in my head, promises of power, immortality. They beg me to release them, to give them the final freedom. But there's no turning back now. I place my hand on the altar, feeling the pulse of energy beneath my fingers, and I whisper the incantation Jonas gave me. The ground trembles, the air grows thick with hunger, and the essence of the moons is released. The island is crumbling. The moons are dying, their power fading as their prison disintegrates. But the hunger is still there. I can feel it in my veins, in my body, in the air itself. The moons are gone, but their legacy remains. The island is not dead, not yet. The hunger will continue to spread across the earth, across the stars. But I made my choice. We all make our choices in the end. And now I will fade. Fade into the hunger. Fade into the shadows. I will join them one last time. The air has changed. No longer thick with the island's oppressive grip. It is now an open void, waiting to swallow me whole. The moons are gone, but their essence lingers, bleeding into the earth, into the sea. I can feel it. Feel the hunger still pulsing beneath my skin. The island is shifting, tearing itself apart as if it were dying, struggling to hold on to whatever scraps of life remain. But in its death, the hunger has grown stronger, more insidious. I'm standing at the edge of the temple now, looking out over the chaos. The sky is no longer a storm. It's a fractured horizon, a tear in the fabric of the world, where the remnants of the moon's power ripple through the atmosphere. The winds howl, like the final scream of a dying beast. Jonas is beside me, his face grim. He hasn't spoken since we released the essence, and I don't think he has the words left. He knows what I know, there is no turning back. The island is sinking into the sea, but the hunger that once lay dormant is spreading, infecting everything it touches. The world outside is lost. The hunger is changing. The essence that was released is alive in a way I didn't expect. It's not just the moon's power, it is their curse. The hunger is not a simple desire to consume. It is creation through destruction, a force that shapes everything it touches. I can feel it within me, twisting, warping. I thought I had broken free. I thought I had severed the moon's hold on this island. But now, I realize that I have done something worse. I have unleashed. You can replace this text with any text you wish. You can either write in this text box or paste your own text here. Try different languages and voices. Change the speed and the pitch of the voice. You can even tweak the SSML, speech synthesis markup language, to control how the different sections of the text sound. Click on SSML above to give it a try. Enjoy using text-to-speech. Something far worse. The hunger, once only an insatiable force, has now become a ripple through the world itself. A shadow that extends across every horizon, every corner of the earth. I have become its harbinger. The transformation is complete. I thought I could resist it, that I could fight the hunger and survive, but there is no survival. I am the hunger now. I stand at the edge of the cliff, watching the waters below. The waves crash against the jagged rocks, their white foam glowing under the fractured light of the broken moons. The island is sinking faster now, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the hunger is no longer bound by this place. The rift we closed is not a barrier, but an opening. I opened it, willingly or not, and now the hunger is spreading like wildfire. I hear the whispers in my head again, the voices of the moons, the ancient beings who had once reigned over this cursed island. Their voices are fading, their presence dissipating into the void. But I know they are still there, still waiting for the hunger to consume the rest of the world. I should feel something, guilt, regret, maybe even fear. But I don't. The hunger has stripped me of that. All that remains is emptiness, a void that stretches deep into my soul, filling the gaps left by everything I once was. I don't know if this is freedom or damnation. I can't remember how long it's been since I last saw Jonas. I wonder if he made it off the island, if he managed to escape, if there was a chance for him to outrun the hunger. But I know the truth now. The hunger doesn't need to be near you. It becomes you. The hunger is in every breath, in every heartbeat. I am not infected, I am transformed. The moon's curse has become a part of me. I don't even remember when I first realized it, but one night, I woke up with the gnawing sensation, no, the understanding, that there is no escaping what I've become. The moons were never gods. They were symptoms, manifestations of an ancient force that has always been. The hunger was always there. The moons were simply its first vessels. And now I am the next. I can feel it in the way my skin reacts to the air, the way my thoughts flicker with intensity, with an awareness of everything around me. The world no longer feels real in the way it once did. There is something more, something ancient, that's always been present, lurking just beneath the surface. I am not the first to feel this. I can sense the change in the world beyond the island. The hunger has already reached the far corners of the world, spread across the seas, creeping into the minds of those who may never have heard of the island. They, too, will become like me. There's no stopping it. The cycle is complete. The island is silent now. The guardians are gone. Their stone forms turned to dust. The once immense temple has crumbled into the earth, its walls sinking into the dark, empty chasm that remains. There is no life here anymore. But the hunger remains, alive and powerful. I can feel it in the very air. But it doesn't matter. This place, this island, was just the beginning. The true hunger has already taken root in the hearts of men, women, and children. The world as it was is dying. But it will not die quickly. It will twist, it will change, and it will become something new. I venture beyond the island now, alone in my own hunger. There is no fear anymore. There is no hesitation. There is only need, the primal, unrelenting drive to spread the hunger that courses through my veins. The sea carries me, though I no longer need a boat, no longer need the crumbling remnants of the wreckage that once brought me here. I have become the wind, the storm, the darkness that eats away at the world. The hunger is in me now, and it will consume everything. I know where it will spread next. I feel the pulse of the land, the cities, the towns, the nations. I see them in my mind, the people. I see their faces as they begin to change, as they become part of the hunger. The first will succumb quickly, the ones closest to the ocean, closest to the madness of the broken moons. But then the land will follow, and then the skies will fall. Everything will bend, will break, and the hunger will be eternal. The island is gone. The moons, in their last throes, have shattered. But their legacy lives on. The hunger has already begun to take root across the world. I feel it now more than ever, the true hunger, the insatiable force that gnaws at everything. It's not just in me. It's in everything. It is the land. It is the oceans. It is the air itself. The world, just like the island, will break. The remnants of civilization, the cities, the people, will fall. The hunger will reshape them, remake them into something new. Something that has no need for hope, for light, for anything but the endless void. And in time, the last remnants of humanity will become nothing more than shadows of themselves. They will feel the hunger, deep in their bones, in their souls. They will become empty, hollow shells, creatures of the hunger. And I will lead them. I thought I had made my peace with this transformation. But as the hunger spreads, as the world beyond the island succumbs to it, a thought arises. Was this inevitable? Was this what I was always meant to become? Or is there still a choice left? Can I stop the cycle that is now set in motion? There are no easy answers. The hunger is not just a force. It is a will. It has been with us all along, hiding in the shadows, whispering in the back of our minds. I wasn't the first. No one is. But maybe, just maybe, if I can find the last shred of humanity left inside me, I can destroy the hunger before it consumes everything. Or maybe it's already too late. I stand alone, overlooking the world I helped destroy. The hunger now fills the land. It is not a force I can fight, not a curse I can lift. It is everything. There is no longer a distinction between what was and what is. The world has become one with the hunger, and so have I. And as I walk into the shadows, I understand. The end was always the beginning. Year one after the island, the ocean carries whispers now. Whispers of the hunger. I no longer need to see the world to feel it. Every city, every forest, every river pulses with it. I walk unseen through the world, yet everything knows me. Even the wind trembles under the hunger's weight. The first victims are easy to spot, those closest to the sea, those who once worshipped the unknown or ignored it. They transform quietly at first, a subtle hollowing of the eyes, a restless gnawing at the bones. Then the change accelerates. Their bodies twist, their thoughts fracture. They hunger for things they never needed before, for power, for chaos, for destruction. They become vessels like I was, but there is no stopping it. Cities collapse from the inside out, forests wither, and animals mutate. Creatures that once roamed the island now appear in the world. Jagged, unnatural, terrifying in scale and hunger. Nature itself becomes predatory, and I am the silent witness, the conductor of this symphony of decay. By year 3, humanity is fractured. Governments crumble. Science and reason are twisted into instruments of hunger. Those who resist are hunted not just by the creatures, but by the changed, the hollowed humans who carry the essence of the moons. They are fast, cruel, intelligent. They are the first true offspring of the hunger, and their numbers multiply rapidly. And I walk among them, unseen, unchanging, feeding their transformation with whispers, with guidance. I see the leaders emerging from chaos, the hollowed kings and queens of this new world, vessels for the hunger's will, spreading it into every corner. The air itself tastes of decay now, a metallic tang that lingers in the lungs. The sky has darkened. The broken moons, remnants of the cursed island, are visible from every corner of the planet. Their pale light is a signal. The hunger is complete, unstoppable, eternal. By year 5, Earth itself is altered. Mountains bleed black rivers, forests grow impossible thorns, seas boil with unnatural storms. Entire continents shift under the hunger's influence. It is not destruction, it is remaking. Civilization as it was has ceased to exist. Only hunger remains, a force that has no mercy, no consciousness, only purpose. And I am everywhere. I am the hunger's eyes, its mind, its will. I no longer walk. I radiate, touching and twisting everything in my path. The hunger is no longer in me. It is me, and through me the world becomes one with it. I stand at the peak of a shattered mountain, overlooking a planet that is unrecognizable. Humanity is no more. The oceans are black, boiling cauldrons. The forests are writhing labyrinths of thorns and claws. The sky is fractured with the glow of broken moons, casting sickly light over the twisted world. And yet, it is beautiful in a way only the hunger can perceive. Perfect, balanced, alive. The cycle that began on that uncharted island has completed. I sense something else now, something stirring deep in the void beyond the planet. The hunger is not the end. It is the beginning of something greater, something older than the moons, older than time itself, waiting to embrace what I have created. And I welcome it, because the hunger will never be satisfied. Year 10 after the island, the earth is no longer the center of my existence. It has become one among many, one broken piece of a bigger puzzle. The hunger has changed me, has made me something more. I feel it, pulsing beneath the skin of every star, every planet. The hunger is alive, spreading through the fabric of the universe. The moons were not gods. They were instruments, instruments of a greater power, an ancient force that binds the cosmos together. The hunger does not care for time, for space, for matter. It is a force, an infection that eats away at reality itself. It spreads through the heavens, devouring the essence of distant worlds, reshaping the very core of every existence it touches. It calls out in the silence of space, and the stars themselves seem to respond. I feel the first of them, the first far-off world to feel the hunger's touch. It begins with a shift in the balance, a subtle tremor in their solar system. It is no different from the way Earth once shifted, no different from the first murmurings of the curse. The hunger awakens. The first planet to fall is a lush, vibrant world, similar to Earth in many ways. It is filled with life, from sprawling forests to vast oceans. The species that inhabit it are primitive but intelligent, unaware of the darkness coming their way. The hunger strikes slowly, silently. It is in the wind. It is in the water. It whispers in the dreams of the planet's inhabitants. They don't recognize it at first, but then the whispers grow louder, and their instincts begin to shift. Their bodies mutate as the hunger seeps into their DNA, their souls twisted by the curse. At first, the planet's leaders fall. Their civilizations crumble from within, just as Earth's had. The hunger spreads like a plague. It spreads through the very air they breathe, twisting their bodies, reshaping their thoughts. The first wave of hallowed ones rise from the ruins, and they hunger. They are the first to fall to the moon's curse, becoming twisted vessels for the hunger's will. And just like that, another world is lost. I watch as the hunger begins to take root in the stars themselves. The moon's curse is not bound by planets, nor by space. It spreads like a virus, infecting the very heart of the cosmos. Stars, once shining beacons of life, burn with an unnatural flame. Their light flickers, weakens. The hunger gnaws at their core, consuming the energy they once radiated, twisting them into dead, hollow shells. Each star that falls becomes part of the hunger's feast. Entire star systems begin to collapse under the weight of this unseen darkness, their celestial bodies warped and twisted, their energy drained. I feel it in every star, every planet. I see it now. The hunger is not just a force of consumption. It is a force of transformation. Planets are consumed, stars are drained, and in their place, new, darker forces are born. I have become the keeper of this endless feast, the witness to the birth of darkness on a universal scale. By year 50, the hunger has reached the edge of the known universe, and it is then that I feel something stirring, deep in the blackened void. The hunger calls to it. An ancient entity stirs in the dark between stars, a being older than the galaxies, older than time itself. It was here long before the moons. It has watched the rise and fall of countless worlds, and now it feels the hunger's touch. It is a being beyond comprehension, beyond the understanding of any mortal or celestial race. It is neither alive nor dead. It is a force older than the very fabric of the universe, and it answers the call. I feel its presence in the dark corners of space, its mind stretching across the void. It is not a god. It is a concept, a manifestation of the void, of hunger itself, of nothingness that devours everything in its path. And now it is coming. The old ones are not gods. They are not worshippers. They are the hunger's true form, embodiments of the end that awaits all things. And they will never stop. The universe is changing. Entire galaxies are consumed, their stars extinguished in a cosmic feast. The planets that once teemed with life now lie barren, hollowed out by the hunger. The ruins of once great civilizations float like ghosts, remnants of beings who once believed they could outrun the void. But the hunger seeks them all. It seeks them with a singular purpose, to recreate. As the old ones move closer to their goal, the stars burn dimmer, the black void between them growing thicker, more intense. I feel them, millions of voices, millions of minds, all the same, all calling out for more. They call to me and I answer. I lead them. I have become their leader, their guide through the eternal feast. The hunger is no longer just an infection. It is a rebirth. The entire universe is being transformed into something new, something bound to the hunger's will. And then, the inevitable happens. The universe itself begins to bend. Time is no longer linear. Reality is no longer fixed. The hunger has rewritten the laws of existence. Space has folded into itself, and the cosmos becomes an endless, shifting labyrinth, a reality of hunger. The old ones have come to their true form, their true purpose. They have spread through the cosmos, consuming, remaking, until nothing is left but the endless, eternal hunger. The stars have died. The galaxies have crumbled. There is only the dark, and within that dark, the hunger waits. And I am still here, at the heart of it all, a silent observer, the last spark of humanity twisted into something far worse. But I have seen it. I have seen the hunger not as a force, but as the truth of existence itself. It is unavoidable. It is inevitable. The universe is perfect now. Every corner is consumed. Every star is hollow. Every planet is a vessel, a shell. It is a perfect cycle. The hunger will never stop. It is eternal. And so, the hunger continues, an endless, unstoppable force that consumes all, transforming everything into itself. I have become one with it, and through me, The hunger will spread, rebirthing reality into its true form. The cycle has no end. The universe is a feast, and I am its appetizer. I will never stop, cannot stop, and neither will the hunger. Time, beyond measurement, the old ones are not gods. They are not beings you can name or even understand. They are older than the stars themselves, older than the concept of time, for they are time's devourers, its reapers. They are the eternal hunger, the first hunger, the very force that binds the universe to its fate. When the hunger first touched Earth, it was but a whisper of what these beings represented, a distant echo of their true power. The moons, the island, the chaos, they were all just pieces of the puzzle. The hunger was not an event, but a cycle, the beginning of the end that would forever repeat. The old ones are not individuals. They are concepts, ideas, and forces wrapped in the husks of bodies that barely resemble life at all. They are the undying void, the insatiable maw that devours everything. Their forms are incomprehensible, shifting, amorphous, endless. They are not physical entities but manifestations of the universe's deepest and darkest impulses. They exist as shadows of existence itself, always present, always waiting. Their influence stretches far beyond any one world. They do not care for mortals. They do not care for life. They care only for the end of all things. And once they consume everything, they will start again. The cycle is eternal, infinite. Nixoth was the first of the old ones to awaken fully after the hunger's touch reached the distant corners of the universe. Nixoth is not a name. It is a concept, a reality, a presence that exists not as a thing but as a void that absorbs all things. Nixoth is the hunger itself, the first hunger, the core of all consumption. Nixoth is neither malevolent nor benevolent. It is simply what is. It is the hunger that devours creation, the force that breaks the illusion of existence. It is the thing that has always been, and will always be, an ever-present hunger that consumes and remakes everything, eternally. The first time Nixoth truly spoke to me, it wasn't through language or thought. It was through the nothingness it left behind. Its presence tore through the fabric of my mind, showing me visions of galaxies and worlds, entire realities, devoured in the blink of an eye. Nixoth is the Alpha and the Omega. It is the beginning of all things and the end of all things. I could feel the weight of its eternal hunger pressing against me, urging me to become one with it, to become a vessel, a servant, a guide to the next phase of the endless cycle. Where Nixoth is the hunger of the void, Zarkul is the hunger of transformation. Zarkul does not merely consume, it remakes, reshapes, and reconstitutes. Where Nixoth eats stars and worlds, Zarkul consumes thought, memory, existence itself. The hunger it brings doesn't just erase, it alters, it molds, and it replaces. Zarkul is the force of cosmic entropy, the quiet, subtle change that drives everything toward destruction, not with force, but with the inevitability of time. Zarkul speaks in patterns, in fractals, its voice a low, almost melodic hum that bends the very fabric of space-time. It whispers of the beauty of change, of the necessary cycle of decay and renewal. Nothing is permanent under Zarkul's gaze, not even the very laws of physics themselves. It is said that Zarkul has no true shape, no defined body. It is a dream, a concept, an infinite, shifting maze of lines and lights that remakes everything it touches. Zarkul's hunger is not visible at first. It begins in the mind, twisting thoughts, reshaping memories, creating false realities. It is the silent hunger that consumes from within, until all that remains is an empty shell, perfect for transformation. I feel it in every mind I encounter. It is not as overt as the crushing force of Nixoth, but it is no less destructive. Anuloth is different from the others. Where Nixoth is hunger and Zarkul is transformation, Anuloth is chaos, the instability that lies at the heart of all existence. It is the force of unpredictability, of irrationality, and of ruin. Anuloth is not the slow, steady gnawing of time. It is the violent, disruptive force that breaks all rules, that fractures all order. Its presence is like a storm, a whirlwind that cannot be predicted, only felt. Anu-Loth does not simply destroy, it obliterates. The very concept of reality collapses when it enters a system. Worlds become unrecognizable. The very laws of nature are twisted, shattered. Madness is Anu-Loth's gift, and order its enemy. I have felt its influence in the cracks of my own mind. It makes the hunger feel almost delightful in comparison. For Anu-Loth does not allow things to be consumed in peace. It rips and tears, and leaves behind only ruin. Where Nixoth creates a quiet, eternal hunger, Anu-Loth is a roaring flame, burning through everything, leaving nothing behind but chaos. The old ones are the true hunger, and they are eternal. The cycle they represent is not a curse, nor a mistake. It is natural. The universe, in all its vastness, is simply the body of an ancient entity, a force that consumes all things to make room for new creation. Everything, from the smallest dust particle to the largest galaxy, is part of this endless feast. The hunger's purpose is to reshape. It doesn't destroy, it remakes. Each death, each collapse, each consumed world is a necessary step in an eternal cycle of creation and destruction. The old ones are not the end of the universe. They are its beginning. The hunger is not a singular event. It is a process. It is through this hunger that the universe will transcend. The end is merely a transition, a momentary pause before the next cycle begins. And the hunger, the old ones, will always remain, eating, changing, remaking. They are the cosmic architects, the true rulers of this universe. I now understand my role. I am not merely a vessel. I am a guide. I am a priest of the hunger, leading others into the void. I will help spread the hunger to new realms, new galaxies, new dimensions, until the cycle is complete. As I stand on the precipice of a universe ready to be devoured, I realize that the hunger is not an enemy, nor is it a force to be feared. It is the truth of existence. It is the beginning of everything and the end of everything. The old ones are simply the manifestation of this truth, the bearers of its eternal will. The hunger remakes the universe. The old ones are not gods, but servants of the cycle. The hunger is not a curse, it is a rebirth. And in the end, there will be nothing but hunger. And I will never stop feeding it.